So we got a new Witcher show announced this week. A Witcher spin-off prequel miniseries. The Witcher Blood Origin. I want to talk about it. Let's talk. Got the last bit of my tea, and now I'm ready to talk. So, Monday morning this week, I was awoken with some cool news. I had about 5 or 6 friends tag me in the news announcement that we are getting a new show. So it is being produced by Netflix, and it is a 6-part prequel series from the original showrunner, Lauren Hissrich, and Declan de Barra, with the Witcher author, Andrzej Sapkowski, who will be producer and creative consultant for the series. So basically, this show is like a prequel origin story of the Witcher universe. It's going to be taking place approximately 1,200 years before the events of The Witcher, before the books, before the games. And it's basically going to tell the origin of the Witcher universe with a event called the Conjunction of Spheres and how that affected the world and how Witchers came to be. It's a very interesting concept. It is not something I would have expected a spin-off show to be about. But I think it is a very interesting topic to explore in the Witcher universe. The official tweet by Netflix: 1,200 years before Geralt of Rivia, the worlds of monsters, men, and elves merged into one, and the first Witcher came to be. Announcing The Witcher Blood Origin, a 6-part live-action The Witcher spin-off series from Declan de Barra and Lauren Hissrich. And then The Witcher Netflix tweeted, "Ever wondered how the first Witcher came to be?" Announcing The Witcher Blood Origin, a 6-part live-action The Witcher spin-off series set in the 1,200 years prior to its story, brought to you by Declan de Barra and Lauren Hissrich. I'm actually pretty surprised that we're getting more Witcher shows. So I know we have season 2 of the regular Witcher Netflix series in the works. There's also going to be an animated Witcher spin-off show that's coming into play, but now we have yet another live-action Witcher show coming, which I know that live action is a very difficult thing to put together and produce, especially in such a fantasy world like The Witcher. So I would have assumed if they were going to do even more Witcher stuff that it would be animated or something like that. But the fact that we're getting another live action one is actually really cool. I actually really like Lauren Hissrich. I think she did a really good job with season 1. I know that people have their criticisms, and I've talked about the entire Netflix series in depth on this channel. But I've grown to really, really like her. And, I follow her on Twitter, and I follow a lot of the interactions she has with the community. And I think she's very aware of the things that are going on in the Witcher world and the community. She seems very in touch with a lot of the community. And so she tweeted, based on the announcement, this is what she had to say about it. "This has been the toughest secret to keep. I've always wanted to dive deeper into the myth and lore of the continent, and now fans will have a chance to explore it with Declan de Barra in a prequel series. The Witcher Blood Origin, Elves and Enemies, and the End." Oh my. So I agree with her, actually. I think that the lore and the myth of the continent is really fascinating and a cool thing to explore. So I am excited what they have to talk about. So Declan de Barra's thoughts on this I have here from a Forbes article about the announcement. "I've always been fascinated by the rise and fall of civilizations, how science, discovery, and culture flourish right before that fall. How vast swaths of knowledge are lost forever in such a short time, often compounded by colonization and a rewriting of history, leaving only fragments of civilization's true story behind. The Witcher Blood Origin will tell the tale of the elven civilization before its fall, and most importantly, reveal the forgotten history of the very first Witcher." My first reaction to this is, yay, more elves! No, but seriously, the continent, as we know it, was home to the Aen Seidhe elves And as usual, as many poor elven stories, lots of other things come in and ruin the lovely civilizations that the elves had for themselves. So, the humans came around and started ruining everything. Magic came into the picture, and humans, of course, had to get all their hands up in the magic. And, of course, monsters came to the universe. So I want to talk about a few things. The first thing is the conjunction of spheres, which is basically... it's a cataclysmic event that happens in the universe. It's described many times in the books and in the games as just what happened, what created the universe that we're in right now. In the actual narration of the Witcher game, it's described as, in a time past, our world intertwined with another through an upheaval scholars call the conjunction of the spheres. The gods allowed unholy forces to slip into our domain. The offspring of that cataclysm was the nefarious force called magic. So, I've always tried to, I never really fully was able to grasp what exactly is the conjunction of the spheres. In my mind, it's basically like universes colliding and creating, and that's really what it is. It's a cataclysmic event. But basically, it makes a mesh of things happen. So first of all, all these weird mutations and things. So what I always picture it as is there's the world of the elves, the Aen Seidhe elves, and it merges with a world of humans, and it suddenly they start meshing together and inhabit the universe together. And then with that comes these weird mutations, which is magic. And then with that also comes the bad mutations, which are monsters. And Minnie, stop meowing. And so I always try to picture in my head how this actually happened, because it's not really described at any point how it happened. It just happened. And I don't know, I just picture universes colliding and causing this big spiral of things to happen. And I don't know. I don't know how they're going to portray this, but it's kind of interesting that this is a concept that might be shown in a live action format. I don't really know how that's gonna work. And so I think the Witcher universe that's being created in the Netflix show definitely calls to some sort of explanation of the origin, because I think there are some things that could be left for your imagination, and you can kind of theorize yourself. But what I'm thinking here is, the Witcher Netflix show really garnered a lot of popularity among not just gamers, but, general nerdy people who are just fans of good entertainment, people who are fans of fantasy entertainment. So, a lot of people were really invested in this Witcher show, but they don't really know a lot about the Witcher universe itself. So I'm thinking that this show is really going to help explain that for people who are not really super duper invested, but want to kind of learn more. So we're kind of thrusted into this world, and we learn about Geralt's story and Yennefer's story, and we learn about the life of a Witcher, but we don't really know why Witchers, or we don't really know the who, what, when, where, how of Witchers, really. We just know about Geralt. And I think this will help explain that a bit. It's just weird for me to think about a story told in the Witcher universe that isn't Geralt or Ciri's story. So, I'm just so used to following Geralt's story that the idea of following another Witcher, it's who's gonna be the main character of this story? Who's gonna be the one telling the tale? What? It's not gonna be Dandelion. I'm also used to in the games, Dandelion kind of narrating the story. I always picture a lot of what's going on from Dandelion's eyes or something. But who is gonna be telling this tale, and who's going to be the first Witchers? I don't know. When the cataclysm happened and monsters began inhabiting the world, and it became such a problem that people realized they needed monster hunters. showrunners to take care of all of the horrible monsters in the world. And that's where Witchers came to be. And they're, everybody knows a little bit about the Witchers, that they're these mutated people who, can drink potions and dabble in small magic. And all these abilities are given to them so that they can successfully fight monsters. And I'm assuming the other part of this show is going to be understanding the Witchers better. So the core things I think we're going to take away from the show are, one, the event that created the universe, aka the conjunction of spheres, or the conjunction of the spheres, and the creation of the continent. Number two, the introduction of magic into the world and how that really came into play, how like early mages and scholars and people began using magic, and how it, really created this world of sorcerers and sorceresses. Number three, the origin of, how the elves played a role in the early universe of The Witcher, and how things changed for the Aen Seidhe elves. And then number four, how monsters and the Witchers came to be. So I think those are like the four main topics that are going to be explored in the show. And it should be cool to see how they introduce it. Yeah, so again, like I said, I don't know who's going to be the main characters of the story. I don't think it's going to follow a like one character story like we do with The Witcher. I mean, it's kind of like a 3-character story because we have Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer. But I think we're going to have a similar thing where maybe we see like the story of an elf or a few elves, the story of the early Witchers, maybe the story of the first magic users, things like that. We may follow these different stories of these people and how it all came to be. And the other thing is just thinking about a plot line, like what is going to be the plot? Like, what's going to be the overarching conflict? Because we kind of know what happens. I guess maybe the characters that are introduced to the world will have their own conflicts and struggles that they have to overcome. But I don't know. I don't know what the overarching plot is going to be. If it's only a 6-episode mini-series, what's going to be the start point and what's going to be the resolution and the end point? I don't know. I have no real speculations. Obviously, it's way too early to tell. This show obviously just got announced this week, so this is just me throwing out my random speculations of what could possibly happen. We'll probably get more and more information as things continue to progress. It literally just got green-lighted and announced, so this is what we have so far. As far as cast goes, I don't think we're going to have any of the main cast of the current Netflix series. I mean, none of them have existed. Nobody in our current Witcher universe existed the 1200, 1400, 1500 years ago. So they clearly are not going to exist. So they're going to have an all-new cast for this show. And I'm curious to see who they are going to cast for the characters in this show. I was getting back into some of the, Witcher lore and getting myself re-hyped up to kind of talk about this video because it's not something I've always thought about with the world of The Witcher. There's clearly a lot of lore to the Witcher universe, and I think a lot of it has been created. Sapkowski, has created the story. But I think, the games have really expanded on this universe a lot. In my mind, when I first started reading the Witcher books, I really think this a lot about Sapkowski. He's a tremendous storyteller, and he does a great job at creating characters and telling a great story and narrative. But he's not like so much of a world builder like J.R.R. Tolkien is, for example. And I think, Tolkien wrote an incredible story and also built an entire world. He built a language. He built, the origin of the world and everything and anything continuing to that. Sapkowski has some things that he created to create a lore of his universe. And there is language, obviously. The elves speak this elder speech. They have a language of their own. He definitely created a universe, but he definitely was more on the storytelling aspect of it. I think this show kind of reminds me of like what the Silmarillion is for, you know, the Lord of the Rings universe, where it's like, in the beginning there was the elves, and this is kind of what that this show might be a little bit about. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really happy that Sapkowski is going to be a part of the show. I'm happy that they're using the same showrunner for this show, so it kind of keeps that same style and continuity that Lauren Hissrich has created thus far. And as usual, I'm always excited to see more Witcher things, because clearly I'm a big fan. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and for now, I will see you all in the next video. Bye!